You're listening to the Fan2Fan Podcast, and on this episode, we're talking about recommending John Carpenter movies. Yeah, he's known for Halloween, but he has so many other movies in his catalog. If you're going to recommend one of his movies to someone, where do you start? We talk about it. Here we go. Welcome to the Fan2Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bernie Gonzalez. With me today, fellow co-host Pete Charbonneau, and we have returning guest Joshua Pruett, Emmy-winning writer, author, storyboarder. Josh has worked on Mystery Science Theater, Phineas and Ferb, Last Comics on Earth, ton of other projects, and we all have an appreciation, a love for Carpenter. And now we obviously see his movies through a different lens. But I have to ask you guys, all right, for maybe someone who is just starting to find Carpenter, and let's take the easiest answer they've probably found.
Halloween. Newsweek magazine calls it a superb exercise in the art of suspense, the most frightening flick in years. Halloween. The Chicago Sun-Times says it's so scary, I would compare it to Psycho. It's the kind of picture, says the Chicago Tribune, that forces you to sleep with the lights on. A masterpiece, says New York's New Times. Halloween, from Compass International, rated R.
Two thoughts on this. One is you could take Halloween, Escape, and The Thing, put that in a time capsule. There's so much other good stuff that I love forever, but those are the ones that it's like we can't live without. If I was going to tell someone, it's like, oh, I've never seen John Carpenter movies, those are the three you need to understand. Because all of those feel they're kind of the daddies for other movies, right? They Live and Assault are kind of attached to Escape. Prince of Darkness and The Mouth of Madness are kind of attached to the Thing. Halloween is kind of attached to The Fog and maybe not really memoirs, but like vampires, maybe even Starman adjacent because of what the subject matter is. So I think you can group them.
Well, here's my advice to you. I think that you are now at a brilliant time. I wish I was starting now, because you have a new technology that you can make a movie with that's cheap. Your digital camera, okay? Make a movie. Start making movies is my advice to anybody. Just make it. Make it great. Then get it shown. Then make another one. Keep working. There's no other way to do it. Unless you write your way in the movie business, or unless you become an actor, and you want to be a director, direct. Make a film. Show it to somebody. Make another film. Show it to them. You'll make it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Alternatively, I think the other way to look at it is in order, in sequential order, because I don't know that you can go wrong from going Assault, Halloween, Fog, Escape, Thing. That's a hell of a run.
And you can certainly see the progression as it's almost, from going from back to our designer perspective, it's like the John Carpenter goes from just being a font to being bold, because it actually starts having presence. It is John Carpenter's Halloween. It is The Fog. Like it is John Carpenter's Assault. But when you start getting into The Thing, Escape, certainly, you start being like, oh no, that means something. He's certainly into his own. Yeah.
Movies that scared me as a viewer were all from the 50s when I was growing up, and this was my formative time when I went to the movies. So a lot of old movies scared me back then when I was a kid. I went to see a film called The Fly with Vincent Price. That had a bunch of scares in it. The Thing from Another World scared me. I know how the plumbing works now, so I don't get as scared.
What about you, Pete? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going back, putting up his big tentpole, like John Carpenter, Halloween, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, I would put in there. But he's so known as being like a horror, like especially for someone coming at it new. So known for the horror. I feel like if you want to go Halloween, because that's always going to be the quintessential John Carpenter film, whether it's your favorite, not my favorite's The Thing. But I feel like Escape being more sci-fi is a good counterbalance to that, because you can always go back to The Thing, you can go back to The Fog and kind of get it back into that genre.
I don't ever want to watch my movies again. I am done with seeing them. I've worked on them. That's the best I can do. Out they go. And if I have to talk about my films. I will before or after screenings, but I don't want to see them. Oh, God. Sometimes I will come across it on television, one of them, and I'll say, what was I thinking in that scene? Why did I do that? That's stupid. Why did I put the camera there? So I will go through a blistering critique of my own directing.
What accomplishment are you most proud of?
Oh, Jesus, surviving. Just by getting these movies to release is a big deal. Just finishing a film. That's my... when I was a kid, I decided at one point I wanted to be a movie director and have a career in directing movies. And I got to do that. And a lot of very talented people never got the chance to do that. So I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky.
Bernie?
I'm going to go with you guys said. I feel like if there was a 1, 2, 3, Halloween feels like it's the path of least resistance for someone who is going to discover John Carpenter. And you have to think about a modern audience. Michael Myers has a lot more Wikipedia entries now than certainly when we discovered Michael Myers. You know, you have to get through Rob Zombie. You have to get through the newest iterations of it. Is it canon? Is it not? Are there director's editions? You know, you got to explain someone the mystery that is Halloween 3. By the time you get through all that, if someone was just discovering Halloween as almost like a pure example of an early iteration of a slasher and what it would mean, I feel like if you went from there to The Thing, you can almost draw that nice line that you were drawing, Josh. Like, here's this movie, John Carpenter unplugged. He doesn't have all the resources, but look at what he can do.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, I think.
You kind of bring in the special effects and years of experience. And all right, now we have The Thing. Look what the same guy can do with a bit more of a budget and certainly more years under his belt of directing and being able to work with actors and special effects. But then there's something about Escape that if it was, all right, well, where do you go from there? In the third slot, it seems to make sense because, like you said, everything else from there, if you liked Halloween, I think you'll like The Fog because it's just like it's a campfire tale. So, you know, you'll like that in the same way that you might like Christine. Yeah. You know, it's really only when you get through those three that you have to now be like, all right, well, if you like The Thing, you'll understand the Apocalypse trilogy and, you know, Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness. Those will make sense to you versus like Escape, where it's like, here's this thing that's kind of like a Western, but it's not. And it's dystopian and it's not. But there's enough there that makes it very accessible compared to something more apocalyptic, dystopian or whatever, like a Blade Runner. Carpenter is like, yeah, just call me Snake.
If someone did come to you for advice on surviving in this business, longevity, what's the one thing you would want to tell them?
Don't lose yourself, no matter what happens. Keep in touch with who you are when you start. There's a lot of things happen to you. Success and failure both. Don't lose yourself through those. Stay in touch with who you are.